Hello, everyone. Greetings from Dronefluence, which is an initiative from National Skills Network. As some of you may be aware, through National Skills Network or NSN, which is how it is popularly known, we have dedicated ourselves to create a lot of awareness about the need for work-integrated education and skill development in various industries. And drones is one of the upcoming or the emerging nascent industry, which will have a huge requirement for trained workforce. So it is in this backdrop that we are connecting with many leaders in the industries such as drones to understand the requirement for trained workforce. And it's in the same series that today we have with us Mr. Arjun Naik, who is the CEO of Scandrone. So welcome to this talk, sir.
Thanks, Madhuri.
Yeah. So we are a little bit aware about what Scandrone is doing in terms of, various industry sector applications of drones, but it would be nice to learn more from you, starting with, understanding what could be the areas where drones can be applied in terms of, let's say, surveillance, monitoring, maintenance, etc. And what is it that Scandrone is doing in this area so that people understand the company and the services?
Thank you, Madhuri, for having me. So Scandrone was basically founded out of a lot of passion and a lot of experience that we bring to this industry. We have several hundred man-years of experience between our founders working with drones. And we have been targeting various sectors very methodically. So in terms of providing drones as a service, we have been doing a lot of work with the oil and gas sector in terms of drone-based inspections. In fact, we have several specialist drones that perform confined space internal inspections. We have done work with the Navy in terms of doing inspections of submarines, inspections of ships, inspections of aircraft, and oil rigs, and so on and so forth in terms of the oil industry. Like this, we have done across various industries. Another major area where we are focusing on service-wise is the agricultural sector, where we are helping farmers get sprays on their crops and also provide forecasts in terms of the crop health, what the yield would be, and so on and so forth. The other side of what we do is actually developing drone products. Drone products, we have three different categories. One is the logistics drones, then we have agricultural drones, and we have surveillance and GIS drones. So on the logistics drones, we are targeting the defense market and also the commercial industrial sector. We have several contracts in place already for doing commercial logistics drones and are participating in several tenders with the Army. So our drones, logistics drones cater from carrying up to 500 grams all the way to 200 kgs. Depending from a range of 2 kilometers to all the way to 150 kilometers. Okay. So that is the kind of bandwidth we're looking in terms of logistics drones. Agricultural drones, we have taken an initiative where we are actually training people for free to fly agricultural drones, and we are heading a program called Rural Entrepreneurship, where we actually let the farmers buy the drones at a subsidized cost with the government, and we actually provide them free training so that they can actually earn money. So the concept is every village has a tractor, and then the other farmers rent from that person. So we're using a similar concept with drones. This helps bring rural youth, gives them more skills, give them an opportunity to earn a better living, and brings them into the mainstream towards using newer technologies. And then on the surveillance and GIS front, of course, again, targeting police forces, targeting large companies for security structures, where we are pushing a drone in a box concept, where the drones are pilotless. They're fully automated systems where the charging, the battery changing, the actual flight by the drone is done autonomously. There are no pilots involved in the actual execution. So this is the kind of areas that we are focusing on in our company.
Okay. Yeah, that's really nice to hear. I think you have told us in detail about the three different areas which are key focus for you. There's one thing which I would like to ask you now, coming to the training and skill development. Today, I think the skilling programs are very few in number, and it is also, a lot of compliance is needed to have an RPTO, and, then people also aren't very aware. And when we look at the Digital Sky website, we see that not all of them are very active. That's what we understand. Some of them don't even have a website. So how do you assess this evolving training and skilling ecosystem in the drone sector? Point number one. Point number two is we are still talking about generic drone training, isn't it? Are we also talking about, let's say, how you are applying drones in logistics? If so, what would be that specialization requirement be, for the curriculum, let's say for the kind of assessments you should do for the practicals and various other things?
So this is actually a very interesting question, and it sheds light on a situation that is very prevalent in the industry. For example, if you look at agricultural drones, right?
Yeah.
Agricultural drones have very limited use. They fly maybe 200-300 meters away from the person. They're flying at a height of 5 or 6 meters, 10 meters at the most. They're flying very slowly. So if there is an expectation that people who fly agricultural drones will also be required to have a DGCA pilot's license, that is something that will become a very big limiting factor.
Okay.
Because right now these courses charge between 50 to 70,000, which is very expensive. Plus, it requires a lot of technical training, right? So it's, for example, if somebody wants to become a taxi driver, he need not necessarily have a BTech degree to do so, right?
Exactly.
So where agri drones are considered, that is the kind of approach that has to be taken. Where yes, they should have a minimum skilling program that requires that they follow a certain amount of safety procedures, so on and so forth, but that should be limited. Where it comes to established training schools, the bigger challenge for established training school is actually trainers. So you can set up a school, you can get the government clearances, but where are you going to get the trainers from, right? So there are very few people who have experience flying drones.
Okay.
A lot of people fly the smaller drones, DJI, Phantom, all the smaller air drones. You'll find hundreds and thousands of people who can do those. When it comes to the larger drones, there are very few people who actually have systematic experience flying them, who understand the best practices, who have had formal training. So the main challenge is to get the trainers.
Okay.
Once you get the trainers, then you can actually set up, these schools will have a lot of credibility. There are a few of them who already do, but to get to the numbers that are required will take some time. So, as the people who are being trained, they get experience, then they become trainers. So there is a certain amount of ramp up period that will take place where the industry will have. The other interesting point you put was, yes, there is generic UAV training going on. But is that type specific or application specific training? Right now, there isn't. So, for example, we have had a chance to hire pilots who are DGCA certified. Their skill levels are very limited. In terms, so they have a lot of theoretical knowledge, but they don't have much practical experience. So what happens is, generically, yes, you need to understand how to handle a larger drone. If you look at a small category, it has a particular amount of weight, so on and so forth. You understand the takeoff, the landing, the basic handling of the drone. Then the next point, if you're looking at logistics drones, you're looking at to go 5-10 kilometers minimum. Yeah. So the drone is doing something called a BVLOS flight, which is beyond line of sight, beyond visual line of sight. So beyond visual line of sight, you're basically looking only at the feedback and the telemetry that you get in your ground station, and you have to be able to manage the drone from there. So this is something that you have to teach people, how to read the instruments, how to do predictive failure. Like, if certain parameters are changing in a particular way, you can predict that, there is going to be a failure. So how to react in those term failure, how to do safety procedures. So this is type specific training that needs to take place. So basically, yes, first you learn to drive the car, and then you learn to drive the car in very specific situations.
Yeah.
So, it's the same with drones. First, you learn the basics of flying a drone, then you learn to fly a particular type of drone, and then how to handle that particular drone in difficult situations.
Okay.
So this training program has to be developed. The training program itself needs to be developed.
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing you mentioned just now is the trainers, okay, the scarcity of trainers. I think that's much needed. And I guess it has to be done as quickly as possible, looking at the kind of explosion that's happening around this industry. I feel because we've been tracking a lot of developments. So my next point would be to know more about what is the role that is played, let's say, between industry, academia kind of connections that need to be established. And how do we get these trainers? What would be the sources, and also the curriculum for training? And generally, that what do we say, like the early adopters of this technology, let's say, like you mentioned, 3 different industries. So do we get people from there, or do we get people from, let's say, from the defense who want to get into the commercial aspects of drones? So what is your vision for this capacity building, which is much needed at this hour?
So capacity building, okay, let's start with the first point where, industry and academia, right? So definitely in India, there is limited engagement.
Yeah.
Most of the engagement tends to be towards, hiring people or students from academia. But I think companies need to start sponsoring programs in universities and colleges where they start teaching you particular types of skills. They start teaching you, for a drone is a very it's an amalgamation of many different technologies, right?
Right.
You need to be a pilot, you need to understand communications, you need to understand navigation, you need to understand electrical power, you need to understand batteries. So you need to understand a lot of diverse things to actually fly a drone. So a lot of the core courses for this can actually be handled at a college level. So, the idea is that people who want to get into drones, so today you have aerospace engineering, right, which is very vast. I think now we need to start having more drone specific programs, right? Remotely piloted vehicle programs in academia. So these need to be specific courses that actually teach students how the various components in a drone work together. And basically, when they graduate, they already have that skill set. So you don't have to, when they come to a flight training school, you don't have to start from that. Right. So let's say there is 100% knowledge to be gained. So if you can do 60 or 70% of that at a college level, then you can actually do the practical experience part at the flight training schools.
Yeah.
So this basically means that the curriculum for the entire flight training is divided between the academia and the industry. Right. So that is the kind of approach that needs to be taken for this. Second, talking about where skilled trainers are going to come, definitely it will be retired Air Force and Army and naval personnel who have experience flying drones. That is definitely a pool. Second, you have people starting to get experience, and once they have a year, 2 years of experience, some of them can definitely convert to trainers.
Yeah.
So over the course of the next year and a half, 2 years, I think that gap will fill to a large extent. And then a lot of the shortage of trained pilots that we have will definitely mitigate.
Yeah. Yeah. So now this one more point here is, like when we talk about the skilling ecosystem in India and the vocational education and training ecosystem, which is still evolving. And with the new education policy, as you may be aware, there is a proposal to introduce at least 2 drone courses at the school level also, which could be between 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 or so, So this would be like, say, drone technician or drone operator. So that's the kind of proposal that's there. Now, so starting at the school level, introducing children to drones and also trying to, have these courses at the ITI level, there is a huge dream, there is a vision so that it becomes very comprehensive and inclusive. So how do you see this happening with your contribution? Let's say, how can Scandrone or companies like yours, influence this ecosystem and bring in the change? Because here there is a lot of scope to, as you already said, rural employment, rural self-employment, and there could be many other things which will come up in the next few years or so. So how would you be playing an important role here?
So we already have a plan in place to implement this, where we are basically targeting, let's say, youths who are at risk, youths who have limited resources, and also women, to bring women into this. So we have women and youth programs where you basically have to be a 12th class pass. That is enough to get trained by us. And we are tying up with several RTPOs as they come up, where we will actually sponsor the training of these people.
Okay.
And we will absorb some of them, and for a minimum of time they work with us, and then they are welcome to go wherever they want. So we'll tie up with some flight training schools for this. We are also trying to, in talks with a couple of colleges to try and get these programs in place. So where it will be partly sponsored by us, partly by the government, partly by them, so on and so forth. For example, we have a batch of agricultural students training starting soon. We actually pay for their transport, their boarding, lodging, everything for the duration of the course. So that, this is the help they need, right? They're smart people, they're willing to learn, they want to learn, but they have limited resources. So the idea is that we take care of that small part of it for them and give them the opportunity to, gain some skills that will help them come to this mainstream of drones.
This is an amalgamation of 3 different industries, as it is also listed in the what we call as the QP-NOS, which is the curriculum which is designed as per the NSQF levels. That's the electronics industry, the IT industry, and of course the aviation industry.
Correct.
So
Correct.
now borrowing from all this, I think there is a huge scope for you to get trained. And also, like you said, the curriculum needs to be developed in a way that, it becomes meaningful for them, and also the incentives which you were just mentioning. So with all this, I think we see a very bright future for young people who can get associated. Is there anything you wish to share through our channel before we close this conversation, in terms of, let's say, you're seeking partnerships, or you want to create awareness among the academic institutions, or anything which would be a message for people?
So I guess the message to academia would be, look for industry partners, and same for other industries, partner with academia, jointly develop programs which don't teach, studies just for the sake of studies, but actually help, students graduate to a point where they are actually employable. One of the things definitely that we need to pay between industry and academia is to make sure students graduate and they're employable at the end of that. It should not be that they graduate and then, you have to start from zero again, which tends to happen a lot. But this is an area which we can definitely ensure that right off the bat, they're employable, and with minimum flight training, they can actually start earning. And this is something that industry and academia need to develop together. So we are definitely looking for partnerships. We are open for them. We are actively looking for this. And so, I hope we get some good partners soon and can push things forward.
Yeah, let's hope so. And I'm sure there is a lot of excitement, and also people are curious to know what this sector is all about. That's the feeling we get. And there is a need to do a lot of evangelizing, promotion, awareness. And I'm sure your conversation is going to help a whole lot of people. Yeah, so it was really nice talking to you and learning so much about drones. Thank you so much for giving us your time and sharing these wonderful insights and knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhuri, for having me. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.